Over the past few weeks, we have been on an Advent journey preparing to welcome Jesus into our world and consider what life with God looks like. As part of that journey, we've been taking a look at some different postures that we often have in our relationship to God that can be dangerous and problematic for us. So far, we've looked at three postures: life over God, life under God, life from God. If you missed any of those, you can find them in the RLC mobile app and our website listed under Advent Journey in the Messages section. But today, I want to dive into a fourth posture, which on the surface seems like a good posture, and in many ways is often viewed as righteous and worth striving for, but is just as damaging for us as the other postures. The posture that we're going to examine is living life for God. Now, this posture often comes as a reaction to counter the life from God posture, where the life from God posture may be labeled as consumer Christianity. The life for God posture takes it to the other extreme of total fixation and surrender to the mission of God, however that is defined. Some examples of what that mission may include is focuses on such things as evangelism, reaching people for Christ, social justice issues, compassion projects, and serving specific people groups and more. Now, I know this may be true of myself, and I would hazard a guess is probably for you too. We all want to live lives of significance. To be able to look at our life, our accomplishments, our past, and what we are giving our lives to, and know that we have made an impact. That we're living a life in a way that is of significance and importance. And within the church, what more noble purpose than to assume a posture and center one's life on God's mission, a mission that was initiated by God and is now carried forward by you. But where we find danger in this, however, is that this very quickly can become missionalism, a stance where everything and everyone is judged through the lens of that tightly defined mission. Every person, yourself included, is now judged to either be on mission, the object of the mission, an aid to the mission, or someone that should be on mission. Success is ascribed to those that have sacrificed the most, given the most, or accomplished the most for the mission, having accomplished the most on God's behalf. While it may seem noble, there's a great danger to this narrow focus on making an impact for God, living your life for God, which Jesus addresses at the end of the Sermon on the Mount, when he addressed some within the crowd that had this mindset. Many will say to me on that day, "Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles?" Then I will tell them plainly, "I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers." What a scary thought to have seemingly accomplished much work and ministry for God, but the accomplishments had come at the cost of actually knowing God. When life is so focused this way, the mission itself can be an idol that crowds out a true relationship and connection with God. When what God truly desires for us is a life lived with God. In the well-known parable of the Prodigal Son that Jesus shares with us, the loving Father actually has two sons in the story. Where one son had gone wayward and then returned to the joy of his father, the other son had stayed home in obedience. In this parable, Jesus offers caution for both of the sons, and it's the caution offered through this story to the older son that Jesus warns us about the danger of living for God. When the loving Father who represents God celebrates the return of his lost son, the older son that had stayed home and is resentful expects a reward. He expects to be celebrated and given accolades because of his diligence and his obedience to the Father. He had rooted his significance and worth in obedience to his Father, when what actually brought joy to the Father was his son's presence, having his son with him. Now, don't hear me wrong. God's work is important, and obedience and sacrifice towards God's purposes are good things. But the mission, accomplishing things for God, cannot and should not replace God as our focus. This Christmas, as we prepare to celebrate Jesus entering into our world to be with us, may we examine our postures toward God and seek to break habits and patterns and goals that seek to exert control over God, remove him from the equation, or simply push him away from the center. Join us this Christmas as we seek to place God at the center of our lives and truly live life with